Welcome to Weeb Game News. I'm your host, Bear. Today we'll be addressing a topic I wanted to cover earlier, but only had a single source of information on, and that was lacking in details. I'm of course referring to Xenoblade Chronicles X, the Western release of Xenoblade Cross. As many people are likely aware at this point, about a month back we got an info leak suggesting that Lin Li's costume would be censored in the West, and it has now unfortunately been confirmed by multiple sources. The costumes remain the same for the rest of the female cast, but Lin Li has had extra clothing painted onto her rather poorly. However, it's not just the costumes. I have some new news to bring you on the topic. It's not just that Lin Li has suffered at the hands of the puritanical censors over at Nintendo Treehouse and 8.4, the player's customizable character has also suffered a hit. In the original Japanese version, players were able to customize the bust size of their character, which is rather common in JRPGs that allow for character creation. This feature has been removed from the Western version for unknown reasons. Apparently, Nintendo and 8.4 only feel comfortable with Western players having characters with an average bust size, so anyone who prefers the large-chested women or prefers less endowed ladies, you're out of luck. On a less direct censorship front, this game has suffered in the localization department, which is unfortunately coming to be the case with any game that 8.4 is involved in. Your mech suits are now referred to in-game as skells, because apparently referring to mobile dolls as dolls wasn't edgy enough for the Western market, so now we're stuck with skell. As was unfortunately often the case back in the old days, and apparently still the case on Nintendo consoles, religious references have also been purged, which is just not okay given how heavy religious and philosophical influences play into the Xeno series. I need to add this is just based on what we've been able to put together thus far. The full extent of the damage done in the localization process is as of yet unknown. If any other serious issues come to light, I will make a short video update covering them. It's a real shame to see the game have to suffer because of Nintendo and 8.4, as the Xeno series has had a rather unfortunate history itself. Series director Takahashi Tetsuya has been working on the Xeno game since the original Xenogears for the PlayStation back in 1998, and has hit many stumbling blocks getting the series out there. The original Xenogears had its budget harshly cut at the time by Squaresoft, as they felt people wouldn't be interested in a darker, more serious JRPG. As a result, the second half of the game was seriously lacking. Takahashi then left Square after it became apparent they would not give any focus to the Xeno series, and formed Monolith Soft. With Monolith Soft, Takahashi went on to make Xenosaga Episodes 1 through 3, which themselves suffered some strange localization setbacks. Xenosaga Episode 1 never received a release in the EU, starting instead with Episode 2, which takes place directly after the end of Episode 1, and expects the player to be fully up to date with the story. This unfortunately caused the sales to suffer in the EU regions. To add more on top of this, Xenosaga Episode 3 was localized by 8.4, and this is where their history of messing games up in the localization process really started. After the Saga games, Takahashi moved on to Xenoblade for the Wii and later New 3DS. This game almost didn't get a Western release at all, with Operation Rainfall having to step up to the plate and show there was interest for the game in the West. And while thankfully this did manage to secure a Western release for the title, it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows. The game received a rather poor dub, which was thankfully mitigated by the fact the Wii version at least had dual audio options. However, the 3DS version, due to cartridge size limitations, did not. Which rather nicely brings us to the last point on today's topic. There is no dual audio in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Dub only. You get 8.4's localization and you will like it, plebs. No choice for you. There is a very small silver lining to this one. A Wii U emulator is currently under development. Once that sees a working release, we'll be able to work on creating an undub, at the very least, and if people are dedicated enough, revert the changes made to the game during the localization process. As a small aside here, on my personal interests, I'm big into music in games. For me, a soundtrack can make or break a game, and for Xenoblade Cross, they got Sawano Hiroyuki on board as the composer. He's well known these days for composing the soundtracks for such animes as Attack on Titan, Kill la Kill, Aldnoah Zero, Owari no Seraph, Gundam Unicorn, and a number of other fairly popular titles. His music is absolutely fantastic, and this game has a killer soundtrack as a result. So for me personally, I'm really hoping an undubbed version of this game can be put together by fans, as Sawano's music alone would be enough motivation for me to play it, even if it wasn't part of the Xeno series. However, I will refuse to buy this in its current state. If an undub does show up, I'll acquire a second-hand copy and go from there. So viewers, what are your opinions on the matter? Miffed about yet more censorship in video? Annoyed like myself about crappy localization or lack of dual audio options? Fan of the Xeno series and sad to see it get dragged through the mud once again? Let me know in the comments below. I've been your host Bear, this has been Weeb Game News, and as always, Thanks for watching everyone, and I hope to see you all next time.